Yeah, मौसम, we've had the coldest November in Delhi since independence.
Dharamsala, we had 2 days very severe cold.
Uh-huh.
And after that, now it's warming up again.
Okay.
For 2 days.
So we are enjoying our winter.
So you have pollution, you have severe
Oh,
cold,
of
and
course.
you have brother COVID. And so Delhi, राजधानी में सब कुछ झेलना पड़ता है.
Yeah, वो Rajdhani, meaning it is the capital of everything that we shouldn't be. And this whole, this thing with the farmers is a very challenging, frightening situation.
Oh, yeah.
They make up 60% of India's
Yes.
population.
But then now I read a news saying that you are selling rice with the cheap rate to China. Interesting.
But your room, Lakala, looks very warm and snug.
Yeah, my room is not that warm, but
Okay.
it is spacious, and I have 5-6 rooms.
Uh-huh.
So just like monkeys, I go into different rooms. It's very amusing. You can. Right now, my cousin is living with me,
Okay.
so he does all the cooking for me. So I'm living like a king.
Ah. So like his Holiness says, I've been, lived on Indian dal and Indian rice.
Yes,
Do you
yes,
eat a lot of
absolutely.
Tibetan food, or do you eat sort of dal and
Oh, it's mostly dal.
okay.
Dal, chawal, roti. I try to eat more vegetable, but now
Uh-huh.
in the winter we get a lot of vegetables. But
Right.
in summer, vegetable
Right.
is not easily available. So have you read Tinji Gejala's book?
Yes. I mean, I got a copy and I have started reading it.
Yeah,
And
the first few pages of his story was interesting.
very interesting.
And
And
then the rest I am yet to read because I ordered 10 books for the library to make it available for others.
okay.
And
We
then
had
also
on
this book on climate by His Holiness.
right.
I bought that also.
On Thursday, on last week,
Hmm.
we had a discussion. No, on Monday, a
Hmm.
discussion at the India International Center with Alexander Norman's book,
Hmm.
with
Yeah, that's also interesting.
with Shankar Menon and Tenzin Gechila,
Oh, very good.
and myself and Alexander. We were hoping to have Claude Apres, but he wasn't well.
Acha.
And well, at some point when there are not so many people, we'll have a little chat about the book. I have some problems with it,
Yeah.
but we'll do that later.
I have that book also and read few pages at least. Sometimes they have the courage to say things they want to say, so it's interesting.
Correct.
But there are 2-3 books written by his Tibetan secretary Lobsang Jimba,
Okay.
which is really very very nice
In Tibetan.
in Tibetan.
Ah,
So yesterday I've written a letter to him
uh-huh.
asking him whether we can translate one of these books into Tibetan and English and Hindi.
These are sort of about His Holiness, like sort of biographies.
No, the interesting thing is, he writes like smaller books,
Uh-huh.
but what he has really saw and experienced with His Holiness. So
Ah,
this one book that I hoping to translate really talks about almost like His Holiness is unique, things like being the manifestation of Avalokiteshvara that His Holiness himself mentioned in TED,
okay.
and many unique things that happened and which he observed.
Hmm.
So very interesting. So many short pieces, very very interesting.
And Tara had, I mean, I never got to read, was never able to read it because it was in Tibetan. But at one,
Yeah, we published it, and in fact, I had a lot of discussion with him when we published it,
uh-huh.
and I actually wanted that he shares many of his experiences But he was a little bit withdrawing, so
Right.
he ended up the last 2 chapters advising the younger generation to work hard and things like that.
Yeah.
Not much sharing about his experience.
But did it get translated into English?
No, 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 no.
So now our chief anchor, Miss Norzin Dickey, is back.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's over to you, Norzin. I shall, like, in school, put my finger on my lips and keep quiet.
We'll wait for another 2-3 minutes and then we'll start.
It is now 5:57. So I think 5 minutes would be a good idea.
Okay, great, sir. 5 minutes then. I'll wait for 5 minutes.
Give up negative friends. Di law survey.
Lagishla, verse 6 later. We have reached verse 11. Gishla.
Even correct. Give up negative friends. Di law survey.
These also
Law survey.
the Wadela
Okay.
and sweet spiritual friends. Eliminate hatred and unhappiness in your mind.
Huh?
The Wadel Chikda.
Oh.
Eliminate hatred and unhappiness in your mind. Only words there, Kishla.
Okay.
Chapter Chungi.
Discard hatred and unhappy mind, and wherever you go in peace. This harva.
Lao Dharan Leder.
La.
Lao this Hagur.
When you give up negative friends, this surgery.
The Kangla Tushada, Alehon Wadel, as your parents, the Dodushi, Jos Kishlagira, last time, when you see them, regard all sentient beings as your parents or children. The Kishlagi Gone, recapitulating Anna. As the Kishlachuna.
Tashi dile Rinpoche.
Tashi dile. I'm not Rinpoche.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think Singla, I think we should start now. Hello, everybody. Wait, let me get to the gallery view so I can see you all. Tashi Dile, everyone, and so good to see you all. I've been missing in action for the last 2 weeks, but so good to be back and to see you all and to welcome you all to this 11th session of our weekly virtual teachings by Geshe La. And Geshe La, what a privilege to be back and seek your blessings, Geshe La. Thank you so much for giving us teachings for last 10 weeks. And now it's the 11th. Really blessed. So with that, yeah, expressing my gratitude with that, I would like to start. So Geshe La, over to you now. Please bless us.
Thank you, everybody. When Nordula says last 10 weeks or something, you know, which is actually 11 days or 10 days. So this process of arrangement is really good. You teach for a few days and then get the credit of having taught for many weeks and months. Very good idea. So anyway, so the 11th chapter, we are reading 11th chapter, which is how to live the way or life of a sublime being, a good person. How should you live your life as a good practitioner? So for that, this verse says, give up negative friends and seek spiritual friends, discard hatred and unhappy mind, and wherever you go, go in peace. So I'll try to just give a brief explanation of this verse itself, because we are ordinary people. So we are very vulnerable and susceptible to the situation, the events, and especially the friends with whom you associate. We need to be very, very careful. So therefore he says, give up negative friends. And what is the definition of negative friends? The Bodhisattva Thokmey Sangpo, in his 37 Bodhisattva practices, he says that when you associate with somebody, if your three poisons multiply and increase, meaning that your attachment, your hatred and your ignorance increases. And contrarily, your virtuous practices like listening to the teaching, contemplating on the meaning of the teaching, meditating on the teaching, if these positive practices wax or decrease, and then gradually you become a person with less love and less compassion because of your associating with this person, then this is a clear indication that you are associating with the negative friends. And I also now remember a statement made by a great Tibetan teacher, Gungthang Lama. He says that the so-called negative friends will not come with horns on the head and wearing frightening black, loose hanging clothes, but they will come with you as if they have a lot of love and compassion to you, and they will speak very pleasantly and softly, saying that let us go to the nightclub, let us drink, let us gamble, I'll take care of the money, this life is for enjoyment, whatever, they will not come as an enemy, they'll come as a very, very dear friend, right? So then, as I said, as ordinary people, we are very susceptible to such, things. And then if we associate more, then you will gradually pick up those bad habits. In many cases, not even knowingly, but in a very unnoticing way, you will pick up that habit. And you get addicted to the bad things, right? So therefore, it is very, very important to distance yourself from negative friends. Now, distancing from negative friend doesn't mean you lose your love and compassion to that person. And having love and compassion to somebody doesn't mean that you just become vulnerable to the dictates of the life of that person or the sayings of that person. So therefore, it's, as I said repeatedly, it is important to maintain distance with everybody, good and bad, everybody, a little bit distance, which is difficult. We are social animal, we are ordinary people, but it's always very, very helpful to maintain a little bit distance and go within yourself more than going outside. because the real richness and happiness has to be found within oneself. And we need to learn how to live alone and how to be happy just with oneself. But as ordinary, mortals, we don't know how to live alone, as I said earlier. You see, so because we don't have much within oneself to appreciate and things like that. So therefore, it is important to learn to live alone in peace and in happiness. And then mentally, of course, you should develop that feeling of love and compassion to everybody, and wherever possible, reach out and help them. But this does not mean to say that you should also be influenced by the negative influences. So therefore, it is important to distance yourself, especially from those kings or leaders or ordinary people who might influence you in a very negative way, right? Because we are tempted to so many things. We are tempted to power, we are tempted to money, we are tempted to this and those offers. And because of this temptation, if you let yourself ruled by those temptations, then gradually you will be compelled to pick up those habits. As we are doing in the ordinary world, many types of works that we do it for money, not necessarily for helping others or things like. Generally speaking, most of us do it just for surviving. And for surviving, if money is forthcoming, you are ready to sell yourself. And this is a constant subject taught in many Buddhist texts, especially Arya Deva's 400 verses. He very clearly he said that in many cases it looks like you are putting your life in hostage to get that money or to get that job and things like that. For example, you take the example of a army, military man or something like that. You see, for money they have to even go to war to where they might be killed and things like that. You see, so this is just an obvious example, but there are 100,000 examples how people live, how they sacrifice their life for that small tiny happiness. You see, so we are not in a very generally speaking, we are not in a good situation because we have to survive, and then for surviving, especially for poor people, there's no much choice. There is not much choice. They are compelled to do that. And even those of us who are a little bit better, we can afford to choose our freedom, but we are not able to do that because if you have some, you need more. You see, you have 100, I need 1,000. If you have 1,000, 10,000, 10,000. आपका salary figure कितना है पूछना है ना आजकल. People ask the figure of your salary. So like that, you see. So therefore, it is really, really important to distance yourself from negative friends. Okay, negative friends don't think they are negative because they themselves are ignorant. You see, they are not necessarily thinking to destroy you, but that is their way of life. That's the only thing they know. So they share what they know, which is not necessarily good. In fact, many a times it is destructive. So therefore, you need to be very careful. As I said earlier, more dangerous than the COVID-19 is negative friends. And in Buddhist texts, even the word, the pandemic of negative friends, the word itself is pandemic. They've used this word. So therefore, it is important to give up negative friends and seek spiritual friends. So contrary to the negative friend, get spiritual friends who will uplift you, by whose friendship, in whose association, as I again in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, Thokmey Sangpo again says, he gives the definition of a spiritual friend, a good friend. Good friend is somebody in whose association, if your faults decrease, if your mistakes gets minimized, and your positive qualities prosper like a waxing moon, such spiritual friends should be regarded more important than one's own life. That is what he says. So therefore, again, it is not in terms of how the person is looking and things like that, but in terms of their qualities, right? So therefore, seek spiritual friends. That is why we pay so much respect to His Holiness and things like that, It's very, very important because elsewhere in one text, it gives the example of somebody reclining against the gold mountain or reclining against a mountain full of dust. If you recline against a gold dust, you will get a lot of gold dust. If you recline against a ordinary dust, all you will get is the dust. So relationship between good and bad friends is like that. So it's very, very important, because if you are somebody who has reached certain mental level, then people or environment doesn't make much difference, because you have that stability, you have that conviction, you are able to make that decision. But ordinary people like us, we are like piece of cotton or piece of feather. We can be easily drawn into different things, you see, right? So therefore we need to be careful. And just this, today I was reading the same text where Atisha somewhere mentions that, now I forgot what I wanted to say. So anyway, so therefore it is important to rely on spiritual friends and distance yourself from negative friends. Discard hatred and unhappy mind. Discard hatred and unhappy mind. You have to discard all negative emotions, of course, but especially hatred, because hatred by nature is such a destructive emotion, where the slogan of this destructive emotion is just saying, go away, get lost, go away from me. You kick out, you distance yourself from everybody. Hatred is distancing, destroying. So comparing to hatred, attachment, it looks superficial, it looks better, because it says come closer to me. Also dangerous, but it looks a little bit better. But hatred right away says, I'll destroy you. Hatred has always been compared to fire, especially conflagration of fire. The job of a fire, and especially conflagration of fire, is to burn everything that comes into contact with that. So therefore, hatred, when you have hatred, it's not just anger, it's hatred. Deep down, when you have this resentment to revenge, to destroy that situation, that environment, that those people, things like that, then not only you will harm other people, but you will never be happy. As I said earlier, when there's nobody who says, because I started developing hatred, my life become much better and happier. Nobody. Hatred. No, in terms of even physical, health, it is scientifically proved how destructive hatred is, right? And as I probably mentioned, not here, but somewhere else, I mentioned that somebody from America published a book where it says, because of anger and hatred, billions of dollars are lost in a year, billions of dollars. So economically also very expensive, very destructive. Why? Because when you have anger and hatred, you fight with people, you use gun, you kill each other, which is almost like happening on a regular basis in some developed countries like America, you see. And then road rash, shooting, car accident, suicide, all this comes because of hatred. And the hatred, anger comes because you are not happy with yourself. Forget about your being happy with others, but you're not happy with yourself, right? So therefore it is important not to give food to hatred, anger, as I said before. The food to hatred and anger is unhappiness of mind. When your mind is unhappy, everything looks dark. Everything looks unfriendly, right? But when your mind is full of love and compassion and patience, everything, even the horrid weather looks good, not intolerable. It's good, you can enjoy. If it is cold, you can go out and do exercise and warm up. I was telling some of my friends, when people say, "Oh, Dharamsala very cold," I said, "No, just go for a short walk and do few jumping exercise. Immediately, your body gets warm, which clearly shows it's not very cold." Now we feel very cold because now the modern people, we hardly do any exercise. We hardly do any of the physical activities people used to do long time back. So therefore we are just sitting and sitting, so how are you going to generate that warmth in your body? So just doing few, walking or jumping exercises, you are able to warm yourself. So weather is not terribly cold. So there's the one perspective of seeing things, you see. So therefore it is very, very important, whatever be the situation, to maintain the calmness of mind. Of course, it is easier said than done. I'm not saying it's easy, but not easy also doesn't mean you should not do. Right? Even getting food is not easy. Getting your livelihood, it's not easy. Will you give up your, going after your livelihood and food because it's not easy? No, you will work because it's important, right? So similarly, these practices are not only important, but extremely, extremely important. They are like inevitable, absolute must. So therefore we must do it. And especially as I was trying to recall what I read this morning, now it came into my mind. So what I was trying to say is, especially in the case of human beings, Atisha says that you have obtained such a precious human life with such a great mental capacity that you cannot afford to waste this precious human life and great thinking power for petty things. That really struck me. For petty things. Petty things means doing all the stupid things, so-called fun-loving things or stupid things, they're so, the places of destruction is wild and rampant. It's everywhere, especially in the modern day. You go to shopping mall or whatever, the destruction is just everywhere, right? So if you let your destruction run wild and give credit to the senses and let your senses run wild and get inflamed, then you won't get any time for inner reflection, inner contemplation, right? So in this way, you will be wasting this precious opportunity, this precious human life, right? So we end up doing those things which even animals can do, eating, sleeping, mating, these even animals do, you see, right? So what is so special about? Why should we call, according to Christianity, human beings are termed as the crown of creation? In Buddhism, we call our human life as precious human life. In what sense it is precious, right? So therefore, it is really important to recognize that precious quality that we have, rejoice, be happy with that, and as much as possible use it. And then another point that I read today, which was very, very powerful, was Atisha says, and of course many other Buddhist teachers also say, that even if you spend part of the time that you are spending for many useless things, for many useless things, you spend most of your time regularly, day after day. So Atisha says, even if you spend a part of those time which you spend on useless things and use that for some positive practices, you will get enlightened. I mean, this is a very challenging statement. He's saying that you are not doing, right? So therefore, it's important. It's not easy, but His Holiness very cleverly, very wisely gives advice of 50-50, you see. He says 50% for this life, 50% for the next life. Very good advice, So what I'm trying to see is, as I said earlier, just like we make budget for our monthly expenses. So similarly, you need to make a budget, this much time I'm going to spend for my spiritual practice, study, meditation, whatever you call it, helping other people, things like that. This much time, of course, I have to go for my livelihood, food, things like that, right? So that's important. So discard hatred and unhappy mind, see? Discard hatred, and hatred comes from unhappy mind. Unhappy mind comes because of your wrong perspective, because you're not being able to see yourself, because you're not being able to see the reality as it is. Unhappiness of the mind comes because you have this very strong egoistic attitude, I, me, and mine, that attitude. And because of this hunger that comes from I, me, and mine, as somebody said, the king, even with his whole kingdom, is always hungry. And the beggar, staying naked by the side of the road, but still he moves around singing and, happy, you see. So that's the situation. So what I'm trying to say is, to this ignorant, stupid mind, unless from your own decision, if you are unable to cultivate some kind of contentment, it will never say, I'm okay. Always it will say, I want more, I'm not okay, I'm having this problem, I am. It never talk about other people's problem. So therefore you're unhappy. When you're unhappy, then you start criticizing everybody. I am poor and I am unhappy because the government is not helping me, my neighbors are not helping me, my friends are not looking after me, as if the rest of the people in the world is your servant. right? So therefore, the first rule of the game is, if you really want others help you, first you should help yourself and use all that capacity, right? So this is not easy to understand for many people. This is almost like speaking a different language. But I think we need to educate on a larger scale how to cultivate the right, whatever be your economical situation, but the capacity to think differently, thereby act differently, is possible for everybody. That's how positive change can be brought about. So therefore, discard hatred, unhappy mind. And wherever you go, go in peace. So beautiful. You know, this root text is translated by me. My English is not good, but I hope one day, somebody with very good English smoothen it and look it very beautiful. So anyway, the meaning is there. And wherever you go, go in peace. That should be your prayer. That should be your thought. For other people also, you should say, wherever you go, go in peace. In Tibetan, we say Kalip Hewa. Loosely translated, it means go slowly. Literally translated, it means go slowly. This also has a big meaning, especially in today's world. People don't go slowly, right? Everybody is running. Even motor vehicles, even train, even aeroplanes are too slow. I don't know, as I said earlier, I don't know why people are so much in rush. I had somebody, let me speak this in Hindi. Everybody these days, parents, they normally tell their kids, बेटा जल्दी खाना खाओ जाओ अभी स्कूल का वक्त होगा जल्दी करो जल्दी करो जल्दी करो be quick it's school time go eat quickly things like that. And among all these parents, there is said to be one parent who says बेटा आराम से खाओ आराम से जाओ. So this is what the Tibetans are saying. Khalif, go slowly, look around, go slowly so that you don't have an accident, in your mind or in your body, things like that. So that's the meaning. Wherever you go, go in peace. Go in peace. Carry a smile on your face. Look around, right? And protect yourself. And similarly, you should pray for others. Wherever you go, go in peace. And that is possible through transforming the mind. And transforming the mind takes time. There is no push button enlightenment. Even though we are living in the age of automatic machines, but so far as the development of the mind is concerned, I don't think there is any push button enlightenment. So we need to practice. So this the 4 lines that I've explained again happens through discussion between Atisha and Domtompa. And Domtompa first again, Atisha tells, I've summarized it a little bit because the text is a little bit long. And the next chapter is even much, much longer, very long. So anyway, the summary of this verse that I've already explained, takes place with this discussion between Atisha and Domtompa. And Atisha addresses Domtompa by saying, Avalokiteshvara, listen to me. The place where there is negative friends, you cannot have positive virtuous practices. Therefore, you should go into a solitude, place of solitude, where there is no attachment, where there is no hatred. When you are free from such, negative friends, full of hatred, full of attachment, and go into a place of solitude, then your positive practices can prosper. And find out in whichever place or which place you can find the kalyan mitra. That means Gyalsey Thokmey, kalyan mitra, good friends. So therefore, please give up negative friends. And it's much better that you rely on positive spiritual friends. And then he asks some question by saying, what is it that is related to the life of nirvana? And the answer is giving that the butcher, which takes away the life of liberation of nirvana, is negative friends. So very, very, very serious. Then what do you mean by, now here he gives his own kind of meaning of negative friend by saying that it is possible that you will die tomorrow. Even if it is certain that you will die tomorrow, but you will not think about it. Instead, you will carry on your regular life, things for this life. You will focus and concentrate, think only about this life. And you will not meditate on impermanence even for a moment. And you will continue to remain lazy and relaxed without doing any practice. Such people are negative friends. Such people are negative friends. Similarly, people who do not know what is it that brings greater happiness to everybody, and what is it that will bring individual personal happiness, and what is it that brings destruction to everybody, and what is it that will also destroy your personal peace and happiness. So people who do not know this, and who are unable to see the way things exist, the mode of existence of the phenomena, but still very arrogant and puffed up, and start thinking that I'm a learned person, I'm a scholar. There are many, many like that. As I said, the education system is such that it really produces a bunch of arrogant people who don't have happiness, who don't have peace, who don't know how to deal with others. So this is exactly what it's saying. So those people are negative friends. Negative friends. In short, he summarizes by saying that in short, those who interrupts and interferes the path to peace and happiness, leading to temporary peace and happiness and long-term peace and happiness. So whoever those persons are, they should be known as the negative friends. So this dialogue takes place when they were traveling, walking, and Atisha at one point says he was very happy that they are having this discussion on Dharma, and he tells Domtamba that the fact that I came all the way from India is not for ordinary chit-chat, but for Dharma discussion. So therefore, all those listening and teaching, which does not benefit your mind, these are facsimile practices, and they are meaningless, and they are unnecessary work, which brings additional suffering. But those listenings and teachings, if they prove beneficial to your mind, then they are called as fit instructions. So if you practice such instructions, then you could call yourself as the fit disciple. So therefore, spiritual friends are those who properly explains the qualities of nirvana or liberation, who properly explains the faults of samsara, and who properly shows the path by which one should know what to discard and what to adopt. So such people who give such teachings are spiritual friends. Similarly, people who take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, who cultivate bodhicitta, who give the sublime Dharma teaching, whoever those people are, they are spiritual friends. So this completes the topic on the spiritual friend. And then he asks Domtamba that in order to successfully undertake your practice, you should choose a place of isolation or solitude. So what do you mean by place of solitude? This is answered in the next lines where he says, if you are in a place where people follow the wrong path, the word he used is titika, that means some non-Buddhist or who follow the wrong path, and who are extremely hateful of the teaching of the Buddha. and extremely hateful to the Sanghas who uphold the teaching of the Buddha. Such a place for a Buddhist practice is uncomfortable place. Because in such a place, unhappiness of mind will arise. As we mentioned earlier, unhappiness of mind place, because the place is now hostile for your practice. So therefore, give up hatred and unhappiness of mind and go to a place of solitude, which means away from these people who are obstacle and who are disruptive. And why hatred arises? He explains further by saying that world is full of confused people. And in terms of spiritual practices also, people are ready to hate others who undertake a practice which does not conform with one's own spiritual practice. So this is again, see, for religious harmony, Atisha gives a wonderful teaching. He's saying that there are many spiritual practices, but the problem with ordinary people is whoever is doing a spiritual practice which does not conform your way of practice, then you develop hatred. And then to your so-called spiritual practice, which you may know or may not know. Unfortunately, the important point is many of these people who engage in fanatic and fundamentalist practices, I trust that many of them don't even know for what they are killing people and things like that. That is the problem, you see. So in the name of religion, all they do is develop hatred and attachment without knowing anything. Just as in politics also we do, that people follow certain leaders, certain political parties, thinking that he or she is going to get some benefit from that, and then they don't care whatever wrong things the leader, so-called leader or political party is doing, right? So because of hatred and attachment. So Atisha says, to such wild, unruly people, they hate everybody who is not oneself. You see, they will hate everybody because of the differences. If you're a man, you'll say, these women, hate women. If you're a monk, then you might say, oh, these lay people, right? So anybody who is other than yourself, they will start hating because of the differences. So therefore, avoid those places where there is hatred, where there is unhappiness, and go to the place where there is peace, where there is happiness. Because that you will find out. He says that you will find out if you stay in a particular place for 3 days or for 1 week or half a month, you will know whether that place is a good place for your practice or not. So he says, even after knowing that the place is not very congenial for your practice, still if you continue to stay there, then you're making a big mistake. Then it's your mistake. And in particular place, when hatred doesn't arise, unhappiness of mind doesn't arise, then that is your place of solitude. So he's not saying that you go to a mountain. You see, this is interesting thing. Normally, when we think about place of solitude, isolation, we think about moving into the mountain. Of course, that is included, but he's not saying just the mountain or distance yourself from people. But what he's saying is the place wherever you are should be suitable for your practice and not disturbing. So when you're able to locate such place, then with happiness of mind, just like a rabbit getting up from its place, you should quickly run to that place. Why he's giving the example of rabbit? Because when a rabbit gets up, that's it. That's all his belonging. Everything that he possesses is his body, nothing else, you see. So now the contradiction, with the human, individual is that we have hoarded or accumulated so many things over the years. Imagine you have to move to some place. I've started thinking about it. in my retirement age, where should I go? I've started thinking about it. Then I've, over the years, collected so much. Books are okay. I have so many books. It's okay, because nobody will laugh at me that Geshe has so many books. But the other petty things, why this so-called Geshe has ordered so many things, He's always giving teaching, but look at the amount of number of shoes that he has, the robes that he has, and many other things that he has. People might say bad things about me, you see. So even otherwise, I've started thinking about, if I have to move, I can't probably give everything away. I should be able to do by now, but still may not be able to do. So it's not easy, you see. So therefore, for a good practitioner, it should be like, in Tibetan, we say, "Kotelani hizowa." That means as and when you get up, that's the end of your state property, right? So there you can see the complete freedom. The excessive baggage, the excess baggage is not there. Completely free. But for those of us who have so many things, the freedom is restricted. We, on the one hand, we think I have this, I have that, I'm fine, I have all the facilities, but see how much your freedom of movement is restricted by all those hoardings, you see. So that's why he's giving this example of a rabbit just getting up and going wherever he wants to go, right? So this shows the place which will be comfortable for you to your practice. And then finally, Atisha again expresses his joy by saying that my main disciple, Domtamba, that today's day was auspicious day, and I did not get tired on the road. And it said that Atisha and many great teachers, when they move on the road, Buddha, I was reading the story of Buddha the other day, and it says when Buddha moves with his disciples, followers, large followers, when he used to walk on foot and move to different places, he always used to move very slowly, but covers a lot of place in a short time. It's not just running few days and then get tired and then eating and resting for a long time. No, not like that. So Atisha also, during the journey, they were all talking about religious practice and things like that. So therefore he says, all my fatigue has gone through this Dharma discussion on the road. So what we have discussed is really the thing that will make whatever we do become a spiritual practice. So he expresses his joy to Domtamba. And then he says, I'm somebody who knows about this spiritual practice. And therefore, those people who really strive to get liberation, then whatever is their manner, all their practices will become a spiritual practice. I call this like moving onto the national highway. If you are in the national highway of the spiritual practice, you are always moving. You may be, you may digress a little bit for your cup of tea or breakfast, lunch, things like that. But this is not my final destination. I must move on the national highway. Now, for many of us, the problem is the national highway is the petty, not so meaningful, mundane things. And then as a side business, if you are in a good mood, you might here and there do some small practice. So that's why it will not be very, very effective, right? Because if you choose that kind of national highway of doing the spiritual practice, then it means it is in your mind, it is in your body, it is in your thought. In your dream also, you will get those dream of doing spiritual practices. Because what you will dream is very much dependent upon what you do in the day. Just as what you experience in this life is dependent upon the karma that you've accumulated in the past lives. These are like similar things, right? So therefore he's saying familiarity, meditation means getting your mind repeatedly familiar with that. Get used to that. Rejoice at those practices, very important. And you will become what you practice, what you regularly do. And he gives the example by saying, for example, if you are son of a Brahma, then you will be a scholar on the Vedas. If you're son of a butcher, you will be very good in skinning the animal body and things like that. If you're son of a musician, you will be fond of singing and dancing. If you are a son of a painter, you will be fond of painting. Like father, like son, as we say. So therefore, it's really, really important to get interested and get habituated. Then you will become expert in that. So in short, whatever the parents do, the children imitate that. So in this way, we should consider ourselves as children of the Buddha and imitate the Buddha. There is a Tibetan saying which says, all activities are imitations. And whoever does the best imitation is called a scholar. Right? Best imitation. So therefore, everything is dependent on what kind of habit you pick up, what kind of imprint you leave on your mind. So therefore, now is the time to leave a very strong positive imprint of listening to the Dharma, contemplating on the Dharma, meditating on the Dharma. And if you do that, then in your dream, in your intermediate state being, in your birth, in your death, this imprint that you left will follow you like a body following the shadow. The karma follows you in all your lives to come, just like the shadow of a bird. You know, for many of us, it's very difficult to believe in the future lives. And for this, one of the Kadampa master gives the example of the bird and the shadow, the body and the shadow. And he gives the example of the bird, that wherever the bird goes, there will be the shadow. Then if you caution his teaching by saying that, no, this is not true, because the bird, when it flies very, very high, the shadow doesn't follow. There you don't see the shadow. Then the master proves that by saying, let the bird alight down, come down. As soon as the bird comes closer to the ground, you will see the shadow bigger and bigger. It means it is there with it all the time. And I have personally observed it in my many flights, and I took many pictures of the shadow that is coming with the aeroplane when it's landing down, you see. So like that, it will follow you. So it's important to leave that imprint. Leave that imprint means get habituated with those spiritual practices. Okay. So let me start the next chapter briefly. The next chapter says, chapter number 12. I had difficulty translating the title of this chapter. And in fact, not only translating, but even the Tibetan word, I had difficulty. Then finally I got it, but still I don't know how to translate it. So basically it is saying that attachment or desire is like mud, mud. So the popular side that you see in Tibet and also in India, I think, is people who wear this long, flowing kind of cloth, which is almost touching the ground, like the ladies' chuba or sari or things like that. Then if you have to cross water with a lot of mud and things like that, in order to make sure that the end of your the cloth or clog is not drenched by water or gets muddy, you roll it up, right? What's the word you use? Roll it up? Probably roll it up, something like that. So that's the word he's using. So therefore, you need to roll up all those precious things, your morality and things like that. Just as you roll up your cloth when you cross the muddy water. So similarly, you roll up your morality or anything that needs to be protected so that it is not sullied by attachment. This is what he's saying. So in order to, this chapter is a very, very long chapter, which talks about the 12 links of dependent origination and things like that. But the primary focus is removing desire, the negative desire or attachment. So therefore he's saying, discard attachment in anything and live without attachment. Due to attachment, even happy migration is not attained, and moreover, it takes the life of liberation. So this is another negative emotion which destroys or which takes away the life of nirvana or liberation. So this is very powerful. Discard attachment in anything. Anything means anything. It's not saying don't develop attachment to your parents and belongings, but develop attachment to Buddha. If you're Buddhist, you might think I should develop attachment to Buddha and Buddhism or Shunyata. You say no, even to Buddha, even to Buddhism. And when you develop attachment to anything that belongs to you, your property, your relatives, your family, even your teacher, or then that becomes again source of disliking other people, as we already discussed. So attachment is, as I have explained earlier, and also example given by Tsongkhapa in his Great Stages of the Path, this attachment, he says, like a drop of oil that falls on a piece of cloth. When a drop of oil falls on a piece of cloth, the cloth gets soaked with that oil and not easy to get it separated from that piece of cloth. And I once heard from His Holiness giving the example, saying that attachment is really like when you have that obsession or attachment to somebody you like, motor car or people or things like that. It's really like you are being pulled towards that object. See? And when you are pulled towards that object, it means you lose your stability. And normally in a actual class, I get, when I explain this, I get up and explain it, showing that leaning towards the other side, and then one of my leg also up from the ground and about to fall down, you see. So which is such a great example that His Holiness gave. You are really pulled towards that direction. And if your attachment to that person or things is strong, you will think about that person in the day, in the night, wherever, you see. Right? And because of that, even if you're able to see the picture of that person, you get so happy, because attachment is blind, you see. You can't see the reality. It blinds you, right? So therefore, and attachment, the word itself, English word also fairly good. When you're attached, with something, basically saying you are stuck with that thing. Attachment means, the computer attachment means it comes together with the computer, you see. And without it, the computer will not function, right? Part of your kind of appendage, you see. So therefore, as much as possible, start attachment in everything or anything, and live without attachment. Now, what about compassion? Isn't it attachment? So these are questions that we need to ask. What about compassion? When you think about how nice it is to be able to remove sufferings of all sentient beings, things like that, isn't this attachment? No. So that's why it is so important. This point is so important because when you tell people not to have attachment, people might think, how is it possible that I have no attachment to my wife? How is it possible that I have no attachment to my relatives? And in fact, people who ask this question to me, saying that if there is no attachment in life, there is no charm. Phir to maja hai nahi. And the life becomes colorless. Are kuch to hona chahiye. Gana shuna, Attachment chahiye. This is what people think. So it is important to make the distinction between attachment and compassion. It is possible to love your friends, to love your family without attachment. And in fact, if you love somebody without attachment, that love is pure love. Then you won't do that business with your partner or with your friends and things like that. The ordinary love is something like business love. I call it business love. Because you are saying, I love you so long as you love me. That is the slogan with attachment, right? But with compassion, there's no slogan. It says, whether you love me or not, no problem. I love you still. Why? Because you are just like me, wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. That's my whole reason. I'm not saying you belong to me. You are my brother. You are my sister. The ordinary love says, I love this person because he is kind to me. He is my brother. He is my sister. At the end of the day, They are important because they are related to you. And the moment you pick up a fight with your so-called very loving brother, sister, immediately, who is that person who you will defend? It's yourself. It's your mistake, not me. At the end of the day, so you reveal your true color. At the end of the day, you're ready to sacrifice everybody when it comes to defending yourself. So that shows this is attachment, not pure love. Pure love, as I said, whether you love me or not, I love you. Whether I know you or not, I love you because I know you're exactly like me, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. And this is a wonderful reason, because the fact that you love yourself, there's not much reason that you love yourself. We all love ourselves. I'm not saying we are good in loving ourselves, but at least we love ourselves. And what is the reason that you love yourself? What is the reason that you take so much care about yourself? Not because you're very special. We might think I'm very special, but no, not necessarily. Right? If you say, I love myself, nobody will say, I love myself because I'm a professor. I love myself because I'm a geshe, I love myself because I'm an actor or actress and things like that. Right? So at the end of the day, if somebody asks you, why do you love yourself? Why you are taking so much care about yourself? Right from, the beginning until you die, you take care of yourself. How many times you wash your body? How many times do you feed yourself? You do everything to take care of yourself. And if somebody out of the blue asks you this very strange question, that why I have seen you, doing so many things for yourself, why you are doing this for yourself? What is your answer? You can give all kinds of stupid answers, but the right answer is that I take care of myself because I want happiness, do not want suffering. Not because you are a professor or things like that. I want happiness, not want suffering. At the end of the day, that will be the answer. So that's why the Buddhist teachings are saying, similarly, you should love others because they want happiness and not suffering. Then again, you try to be clever, intelligent by saying, yeah, that is true, but I'm, who am I to take care of everybody, So they are the Buddhist teachers like Shantideva. They say, no. This is, when you say this, then you are seeing others totally unrelated to yourself. But the fact is, they are all related to yourself. They are like the limbs or parts of your body. You should not get surprised when your hand goes down to massage your foot. Foot is foot, leg is leg, hand is hand. So you should not say, why should the hand go down and give a massage to the tired leg? The hand must go down because it is the leg that carries the hand. You see, they are interlinked, they are dependent. So similarly, we are interdependent, we are interlinked. All your spiritual practices, all the food that you get on the table, everything comes from other sentient beings. So therefore, and in fact, your own, as His Holiness says, if you want to be, selfish, be wisely selfish. And it's for your long-term benefit also. And achievement of enlightenment is possible only when you think about all mother sentient beings. There's no shortcut. Just thinking about yourself, if you do a very rigorous practice, the most you may be able to achieve is some kind of mini liberation or things like that, but not enlightenment, right? Not enlightenment. So therefore, give up attachment, instead develop compassion. There are Buddhist texts which sometimes use compassion also like an attachment because of this similarity. So that's why I'm making this, explanation. Due to attachment, now instead of compassion, if you have this ordinary attachment, due to attachment, even happy migration is not attained. Happy migration means even achieving the life of a human being or a god in the samsara, even this will not be possible if you have attachment, right? And moreover, it takes the life of liberation. Then achieving liberation or nirvana is impossible, right? Because in order to achieve liberation, you need to remove the root of attachment and hatred, which is ignorance. It's only by removing the seeds of ignorance, thereby attachment and hatred, you'll be able to get a liberation, not otherwise. So therefore, give that up, right? So therefore, in this chapter, the most important thing is, it's talking about, it does, of course, explain all the 12 links of dependent origination, including ignorance. But the emphasis in this chapter is how to see how destructive attachment and desire is, unchecked desire or contaminated desire or attachment, how destructive it is. And for me personally, in today's world, the greed, the lack of contentment, attachment is the main source of all the epidemics, all the pandemics or contagious diseases that we are encountering because of attachment. Negative emotions in general, especially attachment. And the environmental destruction that is happening on such a large scale today. Like, for example, last year is said to be 2019, last year is said to be the hottest year for so many years. And you have seen these bushfires in Australia and fires in America, so many places, right? These are all because of negative emotions in general, especially attachment. With attachment, we are destroying the whole environment, the mineral resources, the forest resources, the water resources. In the name of development, we are destroying everything and making the whole planet inhabitable for people, right? So attachment, as I said, is blind. So for me, therefore, it's really important. We should therefore not only talk in terms of what is being taught, which is of course very important, but talk about the reality that's happening in today's world, how destructive unchecked greed is, how destructive attachment is. So that's why this chapter focuses primarily on removal of attachment. And then the 12 links of dependent origination, I will explain in the next session. Now some questions, if you have.
Thank you, Geshe. Now we'll have some questions. And like always, please do raise your hands and I'll see you. Jackie, you can go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was wondering, this is from a couple of weeks ago. You were talking about Arya Davis' 400 stanzas about subtle impermanence, about how our life is just a section of moments kind of put together like a stream. And I was wondering, how does that help us, and how does that specifically help us to remove negative deeds?
It helps us because it will help you to live every moment meaningfully. Because the benefit is you will then stop thinking that life is a kind of duration from the birth until you die. So you have a lot of time. We ordinarily, when we don't question, we start thinking like that. But when you scrutinize and think precisely, then you will find each moment is the part of life, the so-called living the life. So therefore, each moment is important, and therefore you are going to make this each moment meaningful, number one. Number two, because the so-called life is, formed from the component of these different moments, and moments are, of course, things are in general impermanent, especially moment by moment, it is disintegrating. So therefore, when the whole life will come to an end, nobody knows, you see. Tomorrow may be one's last day, or next year may be one's last day. There's no guarantee how long one is going to live. And ordinarily we start thinking, oh, I'm going to live for a long time because right now there's no problem with my health, things like that. But I've seen many people, sometimes people, there's no guarantee. Sometimes people who remain in coma for years, we think they are going to die tomorrow, but they remain in that coma state for years. Then there are others very healthy looking. The morning that person was jogging, and then the evening that person is gone. There's so many instances. So therefore, this will help you think about impermanence. Once you think about impermanence, the grasping to permanence, grasping to living forever will cease. Now, when you stop grasping to permanent things like that, then the greed will come to an end, attachment will come to an end, because you don't see much point in hoarding so many things when there is so much uncertainty in one's life. So you will spend more time for more constructive, useful things, and less for destructive things. And then the need to fulfill the meaning of human life, how precious it is, will come to one's mind. So there are many, many advantages.
Can I just ask, is it also, because in one of the books I was reading, it kind of hinted that you create karma from each moment?
Yeah. Yeah, true. It may be physical, it may be verbal, it may be mental. But when you say creating karma, it's not necessarily saying that you are creating bad karma all the time. No. Karma, there are positive karma, negative karma, neutral karma, So some of these karmas may be neutral, not doing any damage. Some of them, in fact, may be positive, You may not be a great Buddhist practitioner and things like that. That doesn't mean you are a bad person. There are many people who may not be professing any spiritual practice, but who are wonderful person, who are helping other people as much as possible. So they should rejoice. They are doing good things. So karma itself has no connotation of being negative or bad. So the karma, the negative karma we do, it is their karma which is going to harm us. So we need to refrain from that. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe. We have Pasantumala. Please unmute yourself. She has a question, and after that, Katie Rush will ask a question. Pasanla, you have to unmute yourself. Okay. Unmute, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. So regarding the attachment, I want to ask, because first thing is I'm working in a all people home where the aged people, especially the completely demands patients. So for them, as a profession, I try to serve them with the empathy, with the love and compassion, but I cannot sometimes do the best things for them, what they needed for caring. And then that makes me a pain in heart, because I see some patients, unfortunately, they don't have a mental order, like they are mentally disordered type. They can't think themselves, they can't express what they feel. So even if I show them with the love and compassion, I have a patient who is very aggressive. And then actually earlier in a younger age, he was very talented. He's one of the head of the office. And then especially even the family also, he's very kind and good. And since recently he joined our old age home, and then he has changed his character. Even his wife is also worried. So me and my all the team are now working on him. And so I want to have an idea from Geshe how we can deal, or we can help this patient, and how we can avoid the attachment, because I really feel pain in my heart when I cannot help them to have a good, life for them, with a peaceful life. So how can I do that through?
One thing is, I must say that love is a quality that the blind can see and the deaf can hear. Whether because of their state of mind, whether they are able to, respond in an obvious way or not, but they are getting the benefit. So you need to have that confidence. They are getting the benefit. They may not be able to express it. In your case, do the good work and don't expect positive response from those people. Expressing it, they may not be able to express it. That doesn't mean you are not doing the good thing. And even the more important thing is, as I said, we are ordinary people. So therefore, whatever we do, we expect something, especially thankful, you see, thank you, So many of these people may not be able to say thank you. Instead, they may act, negatively, aggressively, as you said. So in those cases, the important thing for you is you do your work and then make sure that they do not also harm you. You need to distance yourself from them. My sister is also a nurse, so she also tells me those things, you see. So therefore, as I said, you should maintain some distance. Do you do your best, show your love, show your compassion. That doesn't mean that you should also pulled into the, the bad situation of that. And then, as I mentioned earlier repeatedly, that's why many people suffer from compassion fatigue, you see, compassion fatigue, because they're expecting something, right? So therefore, just as you are using your energy and helping others, similarly, you need to restore your energy also. Fill your mind with positivity so you don't get tired, right? So that's important. That's all.
Asama, do you want to continue? You can unmute.
Yeah, I want to continue for the clarification. For example, honestly, I never expect any feedback, thanks or reward from them, like material or the verbal. Never expect. Even without expecting, if I could fulfill and serve them the best, that is my reward. That is my satisfaction from heart. So now, for example, for the dementia patient who is very aggressive, even we all the team, we try to like from early morning till evening until to go back. He's mentally completely disturbed. His age over 80, above 80. So how we can cool down him or help him? We try, because at the beginning he loves singing and he loves little bit of sports type, so that we do. But gradually he changed. So demands is something. What is in the Tibetan philosophy, like how can we help this dementia patient? Like, so my point is, like, I don't want a reward or materials. So feedback, some things. One thing is like constructive or something fruitful help for the patient. That is my aim. So how can I do that, please?
There are two things. One, as you mentioned earlier, when this person becomes aggressive and all of you are not able to calm that person down or help them, then you get that pain. That pain, generally speaking, is a positive experience. When we develop compassion, we feel a little bit of disturbance. Poor thing, this person is suffering and things like that. But in Buddhism, it is said, karuna, the Sanskrit word for compassion is karuna, which basically, literally translated, it means stopping the bliss. Stopping the bliss means when you show concern toward the suffering of other people, your happiness or bliss is stopped, or you get a little bit disturbed because you have that sense of responsibility. So therefore you are getting this little bit of pain, but that pain is good. And that pain or little bit of irritation, disturbance that you get when you show genuine compassion to others is only on the surface level. So there is a difference between attachment or any negative emotion. When negative emotion arises, it disturbs your whole being. Just like an ocean which is disturbed all the way down, right? But the kind of disturbance that you get when you develop compassion to others is just like the waves on the surface of an ocean. On the surface, there are some waves, but deep down, the ocean is calm and cool. So because of your compassion, you will have that calmness in general, but you will see some disturbance and feeling of sorry for that person. That's one thing. Second, you need to be realistic. Like, for example, if you expect to remove all, the sufferings of all the people or sickness of people in the whole world, you will never be able to do it. Even Buddha could not do it. So you're expecting some kind of something unmanageable thing. So therefore here the best thing is remember that Shanti Deva's quotation: if it is something you can change, don't worry because you can change. If it is something you cannot change, don't worry because by worrying you can't change it. Now this person, in this case, the person you mentioned is age-wise also quite old, then plus suffering from dementia. So there are certain things you can do, there are certain things you can't do. So the thing is, under such a situation, your responsibility or the responsibility of your team is do your best and then leave the result to the Buddha or God or whatever, karma or whatever, So there are things that we despite our trying best, we can't do. So you have to accept that face of the reality also.
Let's Geshe, one more question, probably the last. Katie, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Oh, hi, thank you, Geshe-la. I have a question on the earliest stanza on meditate love and compassion and stabilize bodhicitta. And my question is, how do we enter into a practice of the Tonglen meditation? How do we begin that kind of a practice? And maybe this is too big of a question for right now, but that's my question. Thank you.
Now, two things you need to remember. One, in the past, in the Buddhist tradition, people are asked to do the lamrim practice, the stage of meditation practice. Of course, that also includes the mind training practice, but generally speaking, lamrim practice is done first, and then the mind training practice, wherein you have this Tonglen practice. So that's the general process I wanted to share. And then in the actual practice of the Tonglen, the crucial point is, Tong means to just to give. That means giving all the good things that you have. When you breathe out, imagine that you are giving your love, your compassion, the skills and the good things, whatever you have to those people who are in need. So that's relatively okay, no problem, right? The problem is lemba, that is receiving, not giving, receiving. Receiving all the negativities, illnesses, sickness, old age, everything. So for many people who don't know how to do this practice, they feel overwhelmed. Because as an ordinary people, you may have already a lot of problems. In addition to that, if you heap up all those problems of other people on yourself, you feel yourself overwhelming. So what the teachers, they suggest is, you are not, putting all those heap of, negativities of other people on you, but you heap up all these negativities in the form of, dirt or soot and things like that on your self-cherishing attitude. Because self-cherishing attitude must be removed, because that is the negative kind of counterforce against cultivation of altruism or bodhicitta. So there's the enemy number one. So our purpose is to destroy that self-cherishing attitude, which I explained earlier. Self-cherishing, removing self-cherishing attitude does not mean that you don't care about self, but self-cherishing attitude means thinking just about yourself and completely forgetting others. That is wrong. So therefore, that must be destroyed. So by receiving all the negativities of the people on that self-cherishing attitude, imagine that your self-cherishing attitude is destroyed and you are without self-cherishing attitude and you become a suitable, practitioner for bodhicitta, the mind cherishing others and things like that. So that is the process. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe. I think that's all for today. Thanks so much, Geshe. And thanks everyone for attending. And of course, this is the last month of the year. So I wish everybody a very good last month of the year at least. And I hope this month compensates for all the months that we lost to the pandemic. And also in terms of practice, I hope we compensate for all the months in which we did not practice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good time.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Geshe.
Oh, just the leg is last. Just say to him, just the leg is last. Just leg. Now, Buddhists are constantly covered. Some of the silly names you consider as an unsure that just say to the question to her. Touchana, Geshe, touchana.
Pissings.
Pissings. She's a gone that young. I'll do it. I was a test. She did. And that's sorry for disturbing.